Hello, everyone. Welcome to the second legendary podcast between myself and Sheikh, the only real Host the Dragon podcast or video discussion thing that anyone is really watching. And this is going to be the spoiler-free episode for Season 1, Episode 2. So to be clear, spoiler-free does not mean we're not spoiling the episode, because that would be rather pointless. It means we are not spoiling Fire and Blood. And also we will be spoiling the first 2 episodes of Season 1 of House of the Dragon, but not Fire and Blood. And if you want one where we do talk with Fire and Blood spoilers, then you can go over to Sheikh's channel, where that will be up. How are you doing today? What do we got?
I'm doing good. I think less good than you. I actually realized that you remember when we were reading Fire and Blood and you were like, I hope I enjoy this more than you. I just realized this happened with this episode.
Haha, yes.
Now I'm not as happy anymore.
You're a hater. So yes, I liked this episode more than Sheikh did. So yes. Let's go. I'm not the hater. Which it didn't happen with Fire and Blood. It would have been a lot funnier if it was a book that by George R. R. Martin. But this is the next best thing.
We hopefully still have 2. Hopefully. Let's not get into that. But yeah. Anyway.
So, okay. Sheikh, how about you can start this off why you think this episode is a flaming dumpster fire and hate the world and anything in this world now.
Okay. I do not think it's a dumpster fire. I still actually like this episode. I did have slight issues with some of the staging of certain scenes. It's like very minor issues. Like without those issues, it would be a 9. But it's something like when we get a little deeper into it, it's like, you will say it's very pointless stuff, but I feel like sometimes the scenes were like, I didn't quite get the character motivation behind certain decisions, like Otto going to face with Daemon, or like, I get why he doesn't want Viserys to go. I don't get why he thinks he can go there and do anything when Daemon has a dragon. That's one of the things. I didn't like the Lena Viserys thing, but like, I know it's from the book, but I didn't like the actual dialogue in the scene was really weird. But I guess we'll talk about that.
I feel like there is no not weird dialogue when you have an arranged marriage when you have like a family trying to set up an arranged marriage between a 12-year-old and a 40-something-year-old. What's your not weird dialogue for that?
I like their dialogue about dragons.
That's true. Laenor's like, where's your nuke? Laenor's like, where's your secret nuke? Tell me.
Where's the biggest one? Send it to me.
Yeah, I would like big nuke thing. Okay. So I will say for the Otto thing, I feel like you don't have to understand all the character motivations at this point because we're still trying to figure that out. So I will say this is my read on Otto. Otto is obviously scheming to some degree, like he's trying to get Alicent married to the king, but he also seems to actually, like, he will scheme at the expense of other people, but I don't think he's going to scheme at the expense of like screwing over Viserys, like the actual king. And I think, yes, Daemon has a dragon, but I think he probably thought, well, it would be really stupid for Daemon to, like, Daemon's probably not going to start an open war over this. Like, he could. That's why he's going and not Viserys, because it's like, Viserys is the king, and but he's probably thinking, all right, Daemon probably not going to start an open war, and theoretically, if I am able to stop it, that's probably good for him. But
that's the thing. How exactly was he planning to stop it? Like, how exactly was he planning to get that egg back?
Well, he probably thought, like, logically Daemon kind of has to capitulate Because yeah, Damon can bring out a dragon and kill everyone there. Okay, true. But then what's his step 2 when he's just declared open war on the realm? Like,
yeah, I guess like I don't know.
yeah, so I
I
know
still don't think.
it's
Yeah,
like, it's like he was playing chess with someone who's like really bad, and he was just like, he was trying to do this like funny thing, and he's just hoping like, okay, there's this move that makes no sense, but I feel like you might play it. But he was just hoping like, please do not play the stupid move. Please play logically. And I think also like he's a very like logical thinker himself, and I think a lot of time people like him have trouble predicting people who behave irrationally.
that's a good point.
Like a lot of
That's
time
like
people go, I think this person would act how I would act. And Otto in this situation would be like, well, obviously I would give up the egg because I'm not going to declare war on the realm. I mean,
yeah, but also Otto is like, no, you can say that he's like blowing things out of proportion, but he's also like, this guy's the next Maker the Cruel, so um let's not like give him any power. So like just being like, okay, I'm going to go to Magor, basically, and ask him to give me the egg back is something like, again, this is a nitpick. Like I love the actual scene how it played out, but I did wonder, okay, one, why did he go there? Two, how would this have played out if Rhaenyra did not come? Would he just say, okay, never mind, I'm going back home? Like, because the last thing we saw is like, he tells his guys to like put down the swords. What would have happened if Rhaenyra doesn't come?
he probably would have been something like,
Bye.
do the old,
See.
I'll be leaving, but if I have to come back, it will be with fire and blood. And then there would have been a small council meeting. Oh no, he's not a Targaryen. He would have said it differently. There would have been a small council meeting, and he would have been like, Daemon literally just was like going to burn us all alive. So I think we have to go to war with him. And then Viserys would have been like, I will not go to war with my brother. And Otto would have been like, God damn it. Stop it. That's probably what would happen.
Yeah. No, I'm wondering if Daemon would let him go.
I guess he would, yeah. I think he would, yeah. Because I will say, so Viserys, I think there's no way Viserys would go to war with him. I think Viserys then would be like, you went instead of me. I'm going now. And I don't know, a few things could happen, but
that
I don't
would be
think
such an awkward scene. Like Rhaenyra doesn't come there, he's like, okay, I'll be going home now. Have a nice day.
No, he would have threatened him as he left. He would just be like, this, and probably been like, you are beyond reason, Daemon.
Okay, yeah, that was like, again, that's one thing. I found some of the transitions weird as well. Like, maybe this was just me, so I should say I watched this like at 3 a.m. and the first time I watched this, a lot of the good dialogue went over my head. And I was
also,
just noticing.
I'd like to know, I watched it 2 times this time. How many times did you watch this episode?
I also only watched it 2 times.
We are equal levels of fan, except I liked it more. So he's the fake fan. I will be reversing the thumbnail from last night.
You're catching up, so that's good. No, but like, okay, this is again very stupid. The very first council meeting, they're like talking about something. They're talking about the Kingsguard, right? Like the Lord Commander died, and now we're looking for the new guy. And Corlys storms in like right on cue when that conversation ends. Like the Lord Commander says, like, okay, we need a new guy. And they're like, okay. Lord Corlys comes in. I'm just like, why make him sort of come in during the last sentence or something? Again, this is nitpicks.
Wait, that wasn't the end of that conversation. That conversation was continuing like, oh, okay, who are the options? Oh, okay, I'll go pick. Like, this wasn't waiting. That wasn't the end of the conversation. What? I'm confused by this criticism.
It sounded like the end of the conversation.
When you say we need to pick a new guy, that immediately would be followed with like, oh, who are the options?
But like they had them lined up outside. I assume they.
Or okay, I'll go choose them. Everyone else, take care of this stuff. Like they weren't. There's a follow up there. It's not like we need a new guy. Okay, it's like okay, what's now the process of picking this?
Okay, third stupid nitpick. This is the worst one. That this annoyed me. Why did Allison wear the same dress in literally every scene? This episode takes place over like 6 days. I was like, what is happening?
Well,
Because
it's actually
Rhaenyra changed clothes like 7 times.
well,
and Allison just
Sheikh, you see, there's obviously it has to do with the Maesters conspiracy, and obviously the Maesters conspiracy pissed off Big Laundry, and now the laundry workers are on strike. And the Royals still have the Royal Laundry team, but everyone else can't get their laundry done properly. And the laundry people have just like, we will only wash one piece of clothing for each person because these wardrobes are unnecessary. And that's why it's actually Big Brain, and you just don't recognize the genius. No, I have no idea. I didn't notice this at all.
Again, this is me at 3 a.m. being like, that's weird.
Someone in the comments, I didn't notice this. Someone in the comments, let me know if this is actually a thing or if Sheikh is just making this up.
I don't think I'm making this up.
Okay.
But anyway, this isn't that important. This is like, while I was writing it down, I was like, why am I writing this down? This is stupid.
You actually wrote that down in your notes? Like this is...
Yes, I wrote it down at the very last thing. Allison's wearing the same dress throughout the whole episode. Why?
It's the Maesters conspiracy and the laundry strike.
I was connecting it with last episode where Otto tells her to wear her mother's dress. Maybe there's only one left.
Yeah, who knows?
Maybe send all of the rest back to Holtown or something.
Maybe.
That's my headcanon. Anyway, that's a stupid one. And then, like, I didn't like the Lena. I liked the Lena Viserys conversation the first half, where they talked about dragons. I thought that was nice. I did not like. Again, this is me being a bit hypocritical, probably, because people pointed out, like, you're in the Song of Ice and Fire, and why is this bothering you? Which basically her saying the whole, like, I will give you a lot of children, and then I won't have. Yeah.
The point of that scene is that
to make
we need to see why Viserys ends up not marrying Lena, and the main reason is he's just really uncomfortable with this whole thing. So you need to see the scene. One of the things that makes him really uncomfortable. I agree,
but I think you can do that without having a child actress say, I don't have to bed you until I'm 14. It was just that particular thing where I was like, okay, that's me. Like, it took me out of it a bit. Like, I'm like, okay, these people are on set. They're like, okay, 11-year-old actress, here are your lines. You'll say to this 50-year-old man that you won't have to bet them until he's 14. No, you messed up the lines. We would do it again. Like, please, once more, go again. That's again, like, it's more of a thing where, like, I know that it doesn't make sense that I have an issue with it because Daenerys is 13 in the book, in one of my favorite books of all time, and so Sansa is like, I think Sansa is supposed to be 11 in the first episode of Game of Thrones. Like in the first, no, she's supposed to be 13.
Well, they aged them up, so
yeah, she's 13 in the show. 13. So, but I think like the actress they hired for Sansa looked older, and this Lena actress actually looked younger than 12. Like, I saw people on them being like, she's 8. Like, she looks 8. And then when they later say she's 12, they're like, oh, she's 12. It's not better, but okay. At least she's not 8. But this is a weird thing where I was just like, okay, don't make child actors say this stuff. But then I'm again, like, they pushed out a 10-year-old in the first episode of, they pushed out a 10-year-old out of the window. In the first episode of Game of Thrones. So maybe
they actually just pushed a 10-year-old out the window as well. They were like, okay, we need the brand actor. Get another 10-year-old in here. And they just launched him. And they were like, see, it's genuine. We're not Harry Potter.
Anyway, those were my main nitpicks. And now that I've spoken them out, I feel stupid. But now we can go to the positive
later
stuff.
When I have nitpicks, everyone, I'll try and make them a little bit better. I'll do my best. But okay, now we can talk about why it isn't a 10 for me. And I mean, so actually, I haven't said I actually like this episode a little bit more than episode 1. It's really close. And the main reason I think is I actually think this episode did a better job of like establishing the cast of characters. Episode 1, I think, mostly established like the situation, and you kind of established Viserys and Rhaena and Daemon and maybe Alicent. And then the other people were kind of like, I mean, I vaguely know what's going on with you, but I don't really know what's going on. I think this one, like after watching it, you really had a better idea of like what's going on with almost every character. So that's the main reason I liked it a little bit more. The main reason it's not a 10 is obviously it was still a bit of a quiet episode, and the dialogue is good. It's still not as good as Game of Thrones dialogue. This is my
exactly like that. That's also why I didn't think it was like, again, 10 for me is like all-time great episode. Like I'm a bit, I mean I only have one 10 out of 10 book, but like with TV shows and movies, I'm like I only give 10 when I'm like actually super emotional or something, like super into it after the episode. Like I gave the example Succession. I just watched the whole show over the summer. I would only give like 1 or 2 episodes in there a 10 out of 10. It's like season 3, the last episode, and maybe season 2, the last episode.
Any of these,
I mean,
I'm sure the viewers know what you're talking about.
It's supposed to be the best show on TV right now, what everybody says. So, yeah. Anyway, so 10 for me in Game of Thrones sense would be the Red Wedding, the Winds of Winter.
By the way, the episode's called The Reigns of Castamere. So fake fan.
I'm very
The Winds
sorry.
of Winter is not a 10 out of 10 episode.
Probably the last episode of season 1, Fire and Blood.
Fire and Blood is a 10 out of 10 episode.
That one. Baylor, I have to rewatch again because it's like the last scene is a 10 out of 10. I don't remember exactly what happens in the entire episode. Like the Reigns of Castamere, actually, like it doesn't just have the Red Wedding; it has a bunch of stuff before that. So those are like, and I don't think it's close to any of the ones I just named. Like this is a good Game of Thrones.
No. I mean, I'm not giving it a 10. I'm not putting this in the same realm as any of the. Well, I think I like it way more than the Winds of Winter, which I'd give like a 5. But
let's not get into that.
That's if you guys want to know my Winds of Winter opinions, you can go to my Q&A for 1,000 subscribers, and you can go to the very end. And Sheikh asks this question and gets me to rant about it for like 15 minutes. But basically, do I think it's close to the worst episode of Game of Thrones? No. Do I have the most personal vindictiveness towards it because so many people think it's one of the best episodes? Yes. Anyway, we're moving on. I definitely wouldn't give this a 10. If you were giving this a 10, I'd be yelling at you in the other direction. I'd be like, not that much happens compared to all these.
I mean, you were yelling at people for giving the last episode a 10, which
I wasn't yelling at people, but yeah, I thought giving the last episode of a 10 was like, I was like, is it though? Like, is this actually one of the best episodes in the history of television? Like, is this one of the best? Is this on the same planet as the Battle of the Blackwater? Or
that episode is so good. Like we were talking about, like Blackwater and Watchers on the Wall, like those battles are incredible.
They're both like they're both an insane spectacle, while also as a story being like so solid and like in the narrative being so good.
Talking about that, do you think we could see something similar next week? Because next week looks like we have a setup for a battle with the whole crab feeder thing.
So I don't think it's going to match up with Blackwater and Watchers on the Wall for 2 reasons. One, I don't go into anything expecting them to match up with Blackwater or Watchers on the Wall, because that's an unfair expectation. So those are 2 of my favorite episodes of television. 2, not only are both of those episodes fantastic, we've become invested in those fates. Like we knew Stannis is coming for like a long time and had been following King's Landing for a long time. We knew Mance Rayder and the people on the wall very well. We don't really know anything about the crab feeder, and we don't really have, like, we care about the wall, and we had so much reason to care about the people at the wall. The same is just not true for the Stepstones. I know intellectually the Stepstones are important for Corlys Velaryon. I don't even know where they are, though. Like, if you unlabel, like, if you took away the labels of a map of Westeros, I'd be like, well, I mean, I'd just look at the islands. I'd be like, those are the Iron Islands, so it can't be that. And that's Dragonstone. So then I would just like, I mean, I would look for a series of islands that isn't the Iron Islands or Dragonstone.
We had such a nice thing going with me being the fake fan and you being the real fan. But, okay, that's over.
Yes, everyone, if you're watching this.
The Stepstones used to be like the connection between Essos and Westeros. like where
Oh yeah,
Dorn ends
yeah.
basically.
See, I'd
Like
probably figure that
connected,
out if I saw that.
it connected basically Dorn and Volantis.
The
And
point is, I'm not
yeah, it
invested
doesn't
in it
matter.
to the same degree as I'm invested in the people at Castle Black.
That's fair. That's fair. Like I don't want to talk about like the stepstones too much because that's probably next episode stuff. I just brought it up because I want to ask, like, do you think the setup for it has been good enough? Because we got not that much. Like we got some dialogue. We got two very scary shots. And one more thing before you answer that, I want you to know: are you mad that George Martin got to do fantasy crabs before Sanders?
Well, the crabs are just normal crabs as far as I'm concerned. So no. And also George Martin didn't do them. His show did them. When you do it in a book first, that matters. Because books are better. And the next reason is, yes, I think it had enough setup for what it is. And I'm really hyped. And I love that final scene, like the conversation with Corlys and Daemon. I will speak of my brother as I wish.
Oh,
You will
God.
not.
He played that. He acted that so well as well. Like,
yeah. And I like how Corlys kind of like, he immediately adjusted his strategy, but he kind of like went with it and just was like, okay, like he just noted that in the back of his brain. Like, okay, I do have to be a little careful with this person, but we're still going for it. And I'm hyped.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. It'll be interesting. Have you seen the preview for the next episode?
Yes, I have.
So, just heads up for everybody, we're getting a bit of a time jump. So it will be interesting how they play that. Like the time jumps, if you've seen like
the bigger question is, how are they gonna explain why they don't just dragon the problem?
That's also the question I have. But also they don't just dragon the problem in the books. Like in the books, that war takes like 5 years. So
well,
I don't
yeah,
know.
But in the books it can be like
in the book he just said we won't concern ourselves with the stepstones. Suffice it to say that Prince Daemon was there for like 5 years and XYZ. Spoilers. So like I listened to that chapter. I'm listening ahead a bit.
Well, I mean, like episode. George didn't have to explain it, so didn't have to explain why they didn't just solve the problem via dragon. But the show is focusing on it, so the show is going to have to be like, hey, Daemon has a dragon, and not only does Daemon have a dragon, Daemon has a very big dragon.
And they're sending more dragons, it seems like.
And Daemon also historically does not seem to. I wouldn't expect him to be someone super worried about collateral damage. So
maybe I don't know. I'm interested to see how that plays. Like if they'll just skip and be like, okay, or if they'll like, I don't know. It's weird. I've been saying this from the start. Like the time jumps will be a bit weird. I didn't think this part of it would be weird with the stepstones thing. But yeah, I mean that's not. We'll see that next week. Anyway, what was your favorite scene this week? Probably one of the ones I already.
Yeah, I mean it would probably be either the last one with Corlys and Daemon, or like the obvious one, the confrontation at Dragonstone. This was one of the. I'm just like, whatever, CGI. This was one where like when the dragon is coming through the fog below them, like I was like, that was sick. Let's go.
And like, so they posted like Issue Max posted a tweet that whole scene it wasn't shot on location. It was shot on like a volume stage, like the Mandalorian thing. Basically, the background is all LED screens.
Yeah.
And for that, it looked actually really impressive. Like it looked impressive. Like I didn't realize it was LED screens or anything. And the CGI, like I love how Caraxes looks. Like how scary is his noise that he makes? Like he has this high pitched scream, screech. Yeah, it's kind of. I love it. I love how they designed him. Like he's actually bloodwormy. He's like a worm.
Yes.
And also, I love the devil horns. Like,
yes, Caraxes is cool, just objectively. So I mean, it'd be between those two scenes, but don't know, man. I'd like me some Corlys Valerian and Daemon conversations. Like,
Okay, yeah. I thought you were going to say they kind of. I think Cordless didn't come across the best. Like, what would your other best Cordless scene be? Him trying to
marry his 12-year-old daughter. Yeah, that wasn't great. Yeah. Well, Corlys, you know what? Everyone here sucks. I'm still allowed to cheer for the person who sucks least.
Yeah, I actually like that was a good point. Like, I was reading on Reddit, there was a thread where somebody was like, well, maybe like, yes, it's a bad place to put your daughters into, but in the hands of both Corlys and Otto, like Viserys isn't a tyrant or anything. Like, he seems to be a nice guy. Like, in this particular like world and in this particular culture, it's like this isn't something that's out of the norm. And it's like you have the potential to marry your daughter to a king that's pretty nice. Like, they're not marrying them to Maegor. So,
yeah, that's true. I mean, it's
like,
kind of like in terms of security for like your kid. I mean, you can be really pretty like in terms of where you're marrying your kid off, where they will not be the victim of abuse and also won't die via stabbing from people outside where they marry into. Like Viserys is a pretty good pick. It's still weird, but I kind of get that.
I mean, this all has the assumption that given you're living in this society where this stuff is normal, like in A Song of Ice and Fire, people are marrying like babies off. So this is not that weird.
they probably are. There's probably someone in A Song of Ice and Fire.
They are. Lance Lannister, I think, marries an infant to get her castle, basically. I think. Maybe it's Lancelot or it's some other Lannister. Maybe I'm forgetting right now, but it's in the Feast for Crows. There's a thing about some guy being made fun of because he married a child, an infant, like an actual baby.
Yeah.
I forgot the name of the baby. Like, she has.
That's because you're a fake
name.
fan.
Yeah. Anyway, so this technically shouldn't be weird, but I would find it weird if they show a wedding with an actual baby on screen. Like, reading about it is different than just putting a baby in that position.
I mean, there's a lot of young marriages in Fire and Blood, but it's like a history text, so you're just like, yeah, whatever. Yeah. But now it's like,
actually seeing a 12-year-old on screen is like, wait,
this isn't what I signed up for. Oh, wait, it is. I signed up for this.
Yeah, it reminded me a lot about like Dany Drogo thing in the books, because obviously in the show they aged up Daenerys by like 2-3 years or something. In the book she's like 13 when that marriage happens. So it's like there is an art piece of people who actually, because all the art about it makes her look like she's 18 during that marriage. Like, people just aged her up in their head canons. But there is one piece where they actually made her look 13. That's so weird. Anyway. Yeah,
I mean, to be clear, it's still weird at 18. It's just overwhelmingly more like marrying off your younger sister to a horse lord to secure an army is weird irrespective of age, but 13 just makes it like so much worse.
Viserys in this world don't have the best lives, it seems.
Hey, but this Viserys, he was like, hey, he looked at the writers and he was like, hey, this age gap is inappropriate. So instead, I will go into this marginally less inappropriate age gap.
Yeah, I think that's the other thing. Like, Alicent is supposed to be 15 in this episode. But the actress that plays Alicent is like 20. So the age gap, the way when we're looking at it, it looks much bigger than it actually is. Like, actual age gap isn't that different. Obviously 12 and 15, at that age it's a big difference. But yeah, anyway, like, I think we've talked about this enough. Like, this show will have weird stuff. We talked about incest last week?
I don't think so, but for those of you who think that, I mean, it's a Game of Thrones show following House Targaryen. Like,
so
it's going to be incest.
yeah, like weird stuff is going to happen, but it's just like
It's
I was
probably, for those who
shocked.
have not read Fire and Blood, if you think in your head the amount of incest you expect, probably double it. Yeah, and that'll probably be a better guess.
Okay, now for me, my highlights of the episode was, it's surprising that this episode is called The Rogue Prince. I've been joking that like for an episode called The Rogue Prince, it has not that much Damon in it, actually.
It's kind of like The Dragon Reborn, the book, where it's like it's kind of the Rogue Prince is driving one of the main conflicts, but
Yes.
isn't actually like a main part of the story.
So
his dialogue at the end with his wife was also really good.
You mean, okay, I get it. So what is it? Yeah, I have an unofficial petition. Rename this episode to The Realm's Delight, because for me, Rhaenyra stole the show in this episode. Like literally every scene she was in, I'm loving the performance here. So I can list everything off, but like my favorite scenes were number one, the talk with Alicent and Rhaenyra in the church in the set. Sorry, fake fan. I love that, and like how she got emotional.
What sept is that, by the way? Because it's obviously it's not the Sept of Baelor, because
it's just the Grand Sept in King's Landing at the time.
Okay.
Shouldn't
logically it look less cool than the Sept of Baelor?
Yeah, I guess. But yeah, Baelor hasn't happened yet. Baelor will happen in 50 years or something. Anyway, I love that.
More, I think. But whatever.
It doesn't matter. What was I saying? Yeah, so I love that scene. I love their like friendship, and it was a nice like last scene to give them before what happens at the end of the episode. And I also really love the conversation with Rhaenyra and Rhaenys. We had seen part of that in the trailers, but in the trailers it made it look like more like nice. This was like full of tension though. Like I didn't expect them to have like this back and forth, and like Rhaenys basically being like super sassy to her. Like I wrote down like a few lines from this where it's like, so Rhaenys says like, I did not ask for a lesson in politics. I asked whether this bothers you. Like it starts off with this where they're talking about Lena and Viserys.
Yeah, I remember.
So, and then like
actually, I like the part where then Rhaenyra was like, doesn't it bother you? And Rhaenys like, of course it bothers me. It's just weird.
Yeah, I really like that actually. I like that touch. It's not just like she's like, no, that's how things work here. Then also like Rhaenyra just being like, they denied you, but they bent the knee to me, essentially. Like,
yeah, they just didn't like you. Get good.
Yeah, and then Rhaenys just answers like, do you remind your father's men of that as you carry their cups? I don't know. Okay. Like I love that scene. Like it did a good job of like setting up Rhaenys as a character, I think, because she didn't get a lot last episode. It was a bit of a different setup than I was expecting, but I think there's a lot of potential to like work on this relationship as the story moves forward. So yeah, then I also loved all the Rhaenyra and Viserys interactions. Like there's awkward, but like I like that they dealt with Emma's death more. I'm still confused whether Rhaenyra knows about the C-section. They are keeping that very vague, I think. Like I don't think she knows. But yeah, they had some healthy discussions, I guess. But also, how did you feel about like the way Viserys is treating Rhaenyra in a political sense? Like Rhaenyra at this point is the heir to the throne.
Yeah, he really probably should not be like, you'll learn how to be a monarch later. So, it's generally people learn better when they start learning young. Like the younger you start learning, the faster you learn. So you should really be like, oh, okay, this person's going to rule the Seven Kingdoms. All right, statecraft. So what you're going to know for statecraft is that I'm not very good at it and that you should ask someone else.
Who would she ask? I know your answer will record this.
Okay, so what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to go find a red priest and the body of Jaehaerys of House Targaryen. And you're going to need to do a little resurrection. Actually, you know what? Screw Jaehaerys. Go get Alysanne, the good queen. She's better anyway. And she can give you, yeah. So yeah, you're gonna have to do that. And then yeah, she'll teach you statecraft.
It would be so funny if she just resurrected Jaehaerys and be like, "No, you're a woman. To give it to your brother."
That would be funny. I want to mention one other scene I really liked, which was Viserys talking to Otto, and Otto being like, "You are the king, but I do not envy you." And that conversation, where he was asking about it, and you could tell like when the Maester answered like, "The Lady Lena is a great matchup." Otto's head was like, "No, don't say that, Alicent."
It made me sad. I was like, "No, that Maester conspiracy. Give me more hints. Don't go the other way."
I actually think like the Maesters seem to be like, all their answers feel like they're meant to sound straight, like they seem calculated. Like it seems like every time it's like, I have to really think about. So I kind of think it's gonna be nodded at the entire time and not confirmed. Anyways,
I think we'll just hint at it. Like it would be too weird to confirm it outright.
Yeah. Anyway, okay. I think running out of stuff for the spoiler-free part. My score was 9 out of 10 because I'm a real fan. He gave it 8 out of 10.
I gave it an 8 out of 10. What?
I said because you're a hater. And then I said, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say, like, since we're signing off on the spoiler-free thing, one thing to note. Viserys in this episode, in the very last scene, when he chooses Alicent and, like, Corlys is, like, super mad and he's like, "This is an absurdity." And Viserys is like, "And I am your king." And what do we say to that? It's like, any man that has to say, "I am the king," is no true king. We've learned this.
Yeah.
This is what Tywin told us this. So
yeah, so basically Viserys should have said, "Get good, scrub. I can do what I want."
Yeah, but I really like the last scene as well. Like, since you're signing off, like I think they ended on a really good, in a really good place.
Oh yeah, I'm hyped for it.
I really like the looks between. I forgot one of my nitpicks. I just saw. We have 2 minutes. Should I quickly
You have a minute and 52 seconds to explain it. Go.
Okay. Why was Alicent in the small council meeting, and why did nobody ask why is she here? At the very end, like she was there because they wanted to have.
I feel like this is one of those things where it's like if you see someone with an uncooked chicken and then later they have a cooked chicken and then later they're eating chicken and don't get salmonella, they cooked off screen. Viserys was probably like, "Yeah, send a Kingsguard, bring Alicent to the meeting."
That's okay. Why did nobody else there? Like, why did Rhaenyra realize, hey, Alicent is here? Maybe he's going to be like talk about Alicent. Like, because everybody acts surprised that he says Alicent. Alicent's standing right there. Like, anyway, it's like I said, I gave it an 8 out of 10. It's just small stuff, but it was also, I was like, why?
Yeah, that one I actually don't know was good of an explanation for.
Anyway, and she was wearing the same dress. You should sign off. We don't have time anymore.
Okay, yeah. Also, it annoys me that for all the other minutes for Zoom, it counts down. And then once you get under a minute, it just says less than a minute. So anyways, because Zoom is going to interrupt me at any point, that is going to be it for the spoiler-free for Fire and Blood for episode 2. Go check out this haters channel. Pointing at things on screens is difficult. This haters channel for the spoiler section. Let me know what you thought of episode 2 and why Sheikh hates Song of Ice and Fire. Have a nice day, everyone.